All right, MSP leaders, we're going to do a short video on how managed service leaders are adding artificial intelligence tools cost into their MSP agreements. So let's dig right in. Now, the first thing to consider is the typical pricing model for managed service agreements. And when we look at the typical formula, we're going to say it's the tools cost or stat cost plus the labor cost, and then divide that by 1 minus the expected margin. And when we say tools cost, we're typically talking about the assigned tools to a specific client or agreement. And that can be things like RMM, security awareness training, SIM and SOC, BCDR, whatever's in your agreement. We want to make sure if we can assign it to a client that it's going to be in those agreement tools. And when we say labor costs, what we mean is the employee's loaded labor rate times the number of expected hours to be used in that agreement. Now, knowing that an $80,000 employee is going to have a different loaded labor rate than a $50,000 employee, we typically want to do some sort of an average just to get an idea of the cost so we can set that rate. Now, we know managed services agreement need to be 65% profitable or higher. So that one is set in stone and we won't change it. The challenge comes in with non-agreement tools, things like PSA, IT Boost, and some of the newer technologies like Sidekick and RPA. Historically, that would have fallen under the non-agreement tools cost and wouldn't be applied to a specific agreement. But we're going to show how you can start doing that so that you can add those costs into your agreements. Because as those costs start to expand, it could offset or change some of our service department gross profitability, even with the agreement profitability staying high. So if we look at that in the typical model, and we use the example of an agreement tools cost of $200, and let's say we're going to have 3 hours of labor in a month for this agreement at roughly a loaded labor rate of $50. Now, this would typically be somewhere between a $75,000 and $80,000 employee once we add benefits and expenses on top of that. And again, we know our margin is going to be 65%. So we'll take that $200 tools cost plus the $150 labor cost and divide that by 1 minus the expected margin to give us a $1,000 agreement. And if we think of the math, we can spend $350 on our labor and agreement tools if we want 65% margin on a $1,000 agreement. So as we move into the updated pricing, what we're going to do is include our non-agreement tools cost in that pricing process. And just to keep things simple, we'll say we have $5,000 in non-agreement tools cost made up of things like PSA, IT Boost, and maybe Sidekick. And we have roughly 1,000 users that we support, giving us a non-agreement tools cost of $5 per user. Now, if nothing else changed, this is going to increase the agreement from $1,000 to $1,143. We'll show in a more specific example how it might not change as much as we think and can significantly improve our service department gross profit as we add more AI-based tools that we can't assign to a specific client. So jumping into that specific example, our super generic agreement pricing model. And in this example, we're doing user, server, and site. Now, these aren't real numbers. We're just using this formula to help understand how you can add this cost in. On the left, you'll see we have general tools that are part of our stack at roughly $21 a user and $20 per server. You'll see we're applying around 3/4 of an hour of labor to each user, an hour to each server, and 2 hours per site. And each of those having a little bit different loaded labor rate because of the personnel working on those issues. And if we run some math down, adding the tools cost to the labor cost, and then applying our 65% margin, you'll see we end at roughly 135 per user, 200 per server, and 285 per site. Now, we always say this is our floor pricing or base price. This doesn't necessarily mean it's the price you want to charge. It's just giving you an idea of where profitability needs to be if everything else is true. So if we look at the right example, we can see that we've added in our $5 per user non-agreement tools cost. At the same time, we've lowered the number of hours needed by 0.1 for each user, knowing that the artificial intelligence efficiency is going to help lower the ticket time. And at the end of the day, that resulted in less than a $5 increase in the per user cost. And on top of that, you'll get all the other efficiencies outside of just user ticket management with Sidekick. Now, the best part about this is when we look at the impact, we know for sure that efficiency is going to significantly improve with the use of AI. Client satisfaction is going to improve specifically through ticket sentiment, but just improving a lot of the ticket flow process will inherently have a positive effect. Profitability is going to increase because anytime we can lower labor, we're going to increase profitability unless we're lowering price at the same time. And it also allows us to redirect that 0.1 hours per user to other tasks that can be revenue generating. And at the end of the day, it's going to significantly reduce specific efforts, investigation, digging into ticket or employee issues, researching topics, and understanding quote status and profitability are all highly automated with solutions like Sidekick. And that's it. Our goal in this video is to really show how managed service providers are adding artificial intelligence cost into their services. Now, we constantly see where ConnectWise, Sidekick, and RPS are making significant game-changing impact in MSPs. And I know what you're going to say, I'm Jim Peterson from ConnectWise, so of course I'm talking about these two products. But if you just look at the Microsoft Teams bot integration, you can see how this can be significantly impactful to owners, leaders, sales team, and the service team. So if you have questions, please hit us up. Thank you.